And welcome everybody to another glorious episode of the Put on Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. It's a beautiful day outside, but we're not feeling beautiful about what the Raiders did this weekend. Really bad. My weekend just started off bad. I saw a bad movie. On top of that, I saw some bad football as well, and we'll talk about that on the Put on Raiders podcast. Thank you for the questions. We're gonna save a lot of that stuff. This is kind of a quick reaction. Before we hit to the game, RTPOW podcast and RHOLM22 is the Twitter handles for the show. 858-299-5592 is the text line for the questions. Those questions we'll wait to our full show later in the week. But let's just start off with before we get to the game. Damon Arnette is no longer part of the Raiders. We don't have to worry about whether or not he's better than Jeffrey Okudah. He's not a part of the team, and this is a big stamp on what was one of the more horrific drafts in history in the National Football League. When you look at what the Raiders did in that draft with Ruggs and with Arnette and all these other guys, it's been a really bad draft for this team. That draft class is horrible.
Yeah, that 2020 draft class just told Jamarcus Russell, hold my beer. When you go exactly. Ruggs, Arnette, Bowden Jr., Muse. The only guys that are really left there's three guys left from that draft class. It's Brian Edwards, John Simpson, and Amik Robertson, who's been inactive for the last few weeks.
Won't be gone. He'll be gone soon.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Raiders had to make this move based on everything we're hearing about Arnette. Everyone by now has probably seen the TikTok video or wherever that video was posted. It might have been Instagram, but you can't have that kind of behavior off the field. This team needs to rid itself of those kind of people and those kind of bad apples off the team character-wise. And honestly, he wasn't going to play when he came up IR. He was clearly going to be the fourth corner behind Mullen, Hayward, and in my opinion, I think Faison would have played over him as well. So
yeah,
pretty easy to move on. There is salary cap ramifications. The Raiders should void that contract and get some of that back. But we'll see. Interesting move. But Mike Mayock sounded very angry and bitter and upset on that conference call today. If you got a chance to listen to it.
Yeah, and I think for him, it's something that you kind of, for him, he put his neck out for him. I mean, that was a risky fourth round pick. I think Austin Gale, who's a pretty good follow on Twitter, he said it best. Like, the Raiders, Damon Arnette didn't bust, the Raiders busted, because the Raiders took a guy in the first round who should have really been who everybody consensus was a third round guy. So it was no reason to take him. There was no reason to do what they did, and it showed in this game that he just wasn't. It showed in his game on the field that he wasn't worth it. And that video is pretty, especially like, talk about being in your own zone and not worrying about everything else around you. You literally are doing that when a teammate of yours just took somebody's life with his vehicle.
Yeah, and that needs to be said in that context, because that's what's going around this team. And I've seen a lot of the national media take some shots at the city of Las Vegas and saying this is what happens when you put a team there. But both of those instances were isolated. And Mayock said it best: if you want to find trouble in most cities, you can find it. And I don't think either one of those incidents, Ruggs or Arnette, has anything to do with being in Vegas or a young guy with money in Vegas, because they weren't out with their boys. They weren't at nightclubs. These are decisions they made on their own at Top Golf, drinking with a buddy. And rumors are that buddy was Arnette. Can't confirm that. And then Arnette was just a wild child on social media with some of the stuff he was doing.
And that picture will be infamous in Raider draft history. The picture of Lynn Bowden Jr., Arnette, and Ruggs. Somebody tweeted out, and I kind of responded saying, "Misery loves company." Like, those, that there's no question that those individuals were tight. And listen, I give him a lot of credit, as looks like the Steelers are going to try to win this game here. It just looks like, I mean, I gave him an opportunity, and he blew it. And he blew it. And I feel like that's probably like that's the hardest part about it. So, I mean, Mayock has to live with that decision. Whether or not he'll be the GM going forward, I don't know. We'll see how the loyalty of the whole situation, kind of takes place. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there with him. And Mayock made another move this today, also adding a wide receiver, adding Deshaun Jackson to the Raiders here. There's that picture of him being a little kid at his first Raider game on the sidelines, all things like that. Bay Area, went to Cal, all the things like that. Thoughts about what he can bring quickly, and then we'll probably we'll go deeper on it later in the week. But just kind of initial thoughts about adding Jackson here to the team.
Yeah, you could tell, in the Giants game, the Raiders had that speed element on the outside, someone to help pull coverage. And Deshaun Jackson's not who he was when he was 23, 24 years old, but he still has the ability to get down the field, run the posts, run the deep routes, run the go, and be a factor. I feel like he's going to be kind of in the Ruggs role you saw last year, 3-4 targets a game, try to make a big play here and there. He's not coming in here to be a savior. He's not coming in to get 7, 8, 9 targets a game. It's going to take him a little while to get up to speed with the playbook, but it does give them a guy who the defense has to respect, and hopefully that can open stuff up underneath more for Waller and Renfro. I can't wait to dive into the all-22 and see what was happening on the outside with Jones and Edwards, but clearly those guys didn't perform against the Giants, and teams are just going to double team Waller and Renfro until someone on the outside can win.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have somebody out there to do it, and I think the Raiders. I've heard. I don't know about you. I heard rumors that they're still looking for wide receivers as we speak. They're just trying to upgrade that position, so we'll have to see what happens there. Quick thoughts about this game, because I thought this game was a very disappointing game, and I don't know why the Raiders are so poor after bye weeks. And going into this game, it was frustrating in so many ways because it was no other elements. Your team was pretty much healthy going into the game. It just kind of made no sense for this team that the quarterback had time to throw the football. Brandon Parker has been solid. Up front, they got a running game going. You had one running back with 5.8, other running back with 7.5 yards per carry. So the elements seem to be there. Thoughts about this game here where the Giants beat the Raiders here, and probably the worst loss of the season for the Raiders.
Yeah, it's a tough loss going cross country, playing at 10 a.m. But the Giants are a team they should have beaten. They moved the ball pretty well. They had over 400 yards of offense. They didn't really kill themselves with penalties. There was a couple here or there, but not the normal 8 to 10 penalties you normally see from a Raiders team. And it came down to keys of the game, and we talked about it. To me, it was turnovers. The Raiders couldn't turn the ball over. They did 3 times, including a pick 6, which gave a touchdown to the Giants. And they had to score in the red zone. And that's basically what it came down to. They got the running game going, which we talked about. And the other big thing we talked about was they can't let Daniel Jones scramble for first downs. And he did. They let him get out of the pocket on some 3rd and longs and convert. And the defense played fine. I thought the defense, other than stopping the run, but this defense, and we've talked about it on this podcast, they are not set up to stop the run. This is a team that if they get up, they can put the clamps on teams and get after the passer. But with their inability to stop the run, if they play close games, like you kind of saw in the Chicago game, you saw here against the Giants, teams that can run the ball are going to stay in games if the Raiders don't score touchdowns. Yeah. And to me, this game came down to the red zone. They were 1 of 6. They got down there. They bogged down repeatedly. They missed a short field goal when the game was close, which came back to haunt them. And we've been talking about Daniel Carlson. I believe he's missed a kick in 5 of his last 6 games, whether it be an extra point or a field goal. But they have to score touchdowns. And this has been an issue going back 4 years now. This isn't a one-game issue. This isn't like a half a season issue. This is a 4-year issue that we're looking at, and things have to change. And to me, the way to correct it is they have to run the ball with better efficiency in the red zone. I'd like to see more play action, more 2 tight ends. And if that doesn't work, at some point you have to try to mix in a little bit of Mariota just to keep the defensive honest. Now, I'm not saying put him in the minute they get in the red zone, but 2nd and 4 in the low red zone, just put him in for a play and see what can happen. Just take advantage of that skill set. Yeah,
and I also too, I mean, you are allowed to, try to score outside the red zone too. I think that's something you can definitely do, is try to attack try to attack that area before you get down there, because things get so condensed. You have to be you have to be so precise. But also in that moment too, like you talked about running the game, the play action with the two tight ends. We have two really good pass catching tight ends. Renfro can get things done in the red zone area on choice routes and all the things like that. I thought that, I kind of looking back at that play with Waller, Waller should have 3 touchdowns, and the first one should have been caught. I thought the first one when the one was going to the ground, that one should have been caught. I thought, as far as that goes, but the other ones, I mean, he got missed. There was another ball in the right corner of the end zone where Bradbury was scrambling, but throw the ball high, above his head. I mean, he's giving Bradbury's a good corner, but he's giving up like 3 or 4 inches to Waller. Once that ball goes, like, I want to give me some jump balls in the end zone. I mean, I think that's where you might not get the separation, that you want, because you're not going to get a lot of separation in that confined space. That's what Bryan Edwards is supposed to be good at. That's what Waller's supposed to be good at. We saw this dude, Foster Moreau take a touchdown off of somebody's back, a couple of weeks ago against the Eagles. They have that ability to do so. So, I mean, that's what I want to see them do, and hopefully they can get that done. I also felt like it could have kind of reverted a little bit back. I mean, I didn't want to. I like running the football, but not running the football so much on first down. I mean, let's still pass to run, because that's the way you're going to get those high points there. Get over that 24, 27, 28 point mark. I mean, it's hard to lose these games where, the Raiders are 5-3, Ryan, but I think this is the first time in forever that they've not given up 30 points in the first 8 games of a year. I mean, if you told me that, I would say, at the very least, you hope to be 7-1, but like you at least have to be 6-2 with that kind of defensive output.
It's been 20 years since the Raiders have played.
It's been 20 years since they've done that?
2001 was the last time, I believe, I saw that, that they've gone 8 weeks without giving up 30 points. And to me,
Gus Bradley is the assistant coach of the year.
I think in the red zone, I'd like to see, this is a novel concept, throw the ball into the end zone. Stop dumping the ball short. Give these guys a chance. You have Waller. The fact that they haven't figured out how to use Waller in the red zone in 3 years now is mind-boggling. You'd like to see him run some slants. You'd like to see him run routes, fades, where his body can be used and his athleticism. Mm-hmm. I see a lot on film of Darren Waller trying to win speed routes in the red zone and trying to run like the corner route that went out of bounds. Like, he's not going to win that route. It's the timing route on that's going to have to be perfect, or it's going to have to be a high point ball in the back corner. Same thing with Edwards. I haven't seen him really run those type of routes in the red zone. When I see the all 22 tomorrow, hopefully I can see what they were kind of doing, but these guys are running a lot of speed routes, these bigger wide receivers, where they're not running routes to take advantage of their size and physicality. Mm. And I looked at the numbers today. I was curious. Derek Carr in his career in the red zone, in the low red zone, is about a 52% completion percentage, which is mind blowing, because he's been 67, 70% the last couple of years overall for the season. But as soon as he gets into the contended zone, and a lot of that is that, guys aren't getting open, but at some point you have to give those guys chances. Give them a chance to go up, be an athlete, make a play. You might get a flag. And that, honestly, and I think I tweet or text this to you, he's 25th in the league right now in completion percentage in the red zone. I think it was between Jimmy Garoppolo and Taylor Heineke, and just a couple of points ahead of Sam Darnold and Jared Goff. So that's the kind of quarterback play they're getting in the red zone. And that's not going to help this team score touchdowns, but it comes back to the running game, and just maybe some different route combinations, and it's costing them games at this point. And it's a tight AFC. There's 11 teams after Pittsburgh's win tonight that have 11 wins. 4 of those teams are going to win their division. The other 3 are going to come down to 7 teams, and losing games to the Bears and the Giants, while they are NFC opponents, so they're not going to affect tiebreakers. If you get in a tiebreaker, if you don't make the playoffs by 1 game, it's going to be a what if. And good teams don't lose these games. The Patriots don't lose these games. They go on there where they win. The Chargers went on there where they won the game against the Eagles. They could have lost. So and at some point, the Raiders have to win games they're supposed to win, because there's too many good teams remaining on the schedule.
Yeah, and also you're getting to a point where you're going to be playing some road games here where you lose that winnable road game, the game you should have won, and then later in the season, we know you're going at Kansas City. You know you're going. Where else are you going? You're going at Cleveland.
They're going to Cleveland.
You're going.
This
You're
is a
going.
team that
You're going at
can't stop the run.
Indianapolis. You're at
They're going at
Indianapolis.
Indy and at Cleveland, two teams that are probably in the top 3 or 4 in the league in running the football. That's going to be a problem.
Yeah, and you saw in this game too. Like I don't know if you noticed it, but as soon as they had a really good running, they were running the ball pretty well in that first half. Then you saw the 4 defensive linemen change. It was all run stoppers the whole time. So that was something you saw immediately. In that game, they brought in their kind of a run stopping group instead of going to pass rushers because they just had to get the third down before they can actually start to rush the passer. As far as that goes, the running game. They're going to give up some in this defense. They're going to give up some stuff, some of the short stuff. They're going to give up stuff for the running game. I understand that part of it. At the end of the day, it really is. It's a mind-boggling loss. I understand the Ruggs situation. I don't want to. I don't even want to. I don't want to go crazy about that again, but like that middle 8 of the game that they talk about the middle 8 in football, the 4 minutes before the 4 minutes from the first and going to halftime and the 4 minutes to start the game. Are you serious?
It was short. He missed it.
67. Would you try? So as we do the show, we have the Bears game and the Bears and Steelers game in the background. Do you try 67 as a 65-yard field goal, or do you throw an air Hail Mary?
I didn't see how much time was left. I didn't know if they could have thrown a quick out or anything. But
no, it was just there was 2 seconds left, so they could have thrown. It was a Hail Mary or 60 or 65-yard. I mean, he hit the crossbar, so he had the leg for it, but still, 65 yards is a long kick. As the Steelers win, to even crowd the Raiders had the tiebreaker over the Steelers, but still. Still, the AFC is jam packed as far as you said before. I'm just taking a peek at that one more time.
Yeah, did it make it all the way there?
It hit the crossbar. I think. I'm pretty sure it hit the crossbar.
I think it was just.
Oh, short. Just short. From the back view.
Oh, he's short by about 10 yards.
Yeah, about 10 yards. Okay, I thought it hit the crossbar. Yeah. Hail Mary. Yeah, know your kicker. Know your kicker. Plus, the Hail Mary is one of the most exciting plays in football. Yeah, you got to do Hail Mary in that one. Yeah. Raiders had the tiebreaker over them.
Offensively, the Raiders, offensively, they had the run game going. They kind of went away from it, especially when they got to the red zone. I think after the first touchdown, I want to say they only ran the ball twice more in the red zone on the rest of the next 5 trips. And one of them was on, and this blows my mind. I don't know why teams do this. They had like 2nd and 8 from or 2nd and goal from 8. And they ran the ball and it got like 1 yard. Like running the ball when you're outside the 7-yard line on 2nd down in the red zone. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but my brain tells me that the field goal attempt percentage after that is probably somewhere north of 75%. It's just not efficient.
Yeah.
Throw the ball into the end zone twice. But yeah, the Raiders, to me, this is a game they needed. They needed to win it going home to face Kansas City. And now they have 3 games in 11 days. And we're going to learn a lot about this team against Kansas City. Cincinnati's going to run the football, and they have Joe Burrow, and then they have to go on the road on a short week to Dallas. So they can't slip up and lose. If they lose 2 of these games, they're going to fall way out in the playoff race.
Yeah,
so we'll see what happens.
What happens? Yeah. Also, it's a big. it was a big loss. And I texted you the other day when we were watching the game. I was like, if the team ever makes the playoffs, it will be they're literally on the last play of the last game of the year, because they can't handle any kind of prosperity whatsoever as far as that go. And what about like seeing a little bit of this little dynamic duo they're building here with Drake and Jacobs? Why not have them on the field at the same time? Like you can.
They did briefly a little bit, but they could definitely help, especially when you don't have the receivers on the outside.
Exactly.
Putting Drake out there is going to dictate the coverage too, because you're going to see who's going to go out with him. You'll know if it's man or zone. And I did like they did that one play where they ran kind of like, I think it was like a RPO where it was an inside zone handoff out of shotgun, and he kept it, threw it out in the flat to Drake. He had 2 blockers in front of him, picked up 8 or 9 yards. Just creative ways to get the ball in his hands, because without Ruggs, they don't have a ton of explosive playmakers, guys that can make plays. And
Mhm.
Kenyan Drake is definitely one of those guys. I thought they waited a little bit too long to get Waller involved. I thought they were just going to come out and, get Waller his 15 targets, use the middle of the field. We talked a lot about in the
The
preview,
linebackers.
basically, they got to attack the linebackers. They didn't really do
Yeah.
that a ton until late on some of those choice routes by Waller. But this offense is going to have to open up. Even without Ruggs, you have to throw the ball down the field to back up the safeties. But at the end of the day, you can give your guy a chance to make a play, pass interference. They're not going to create explosive plays without that speed element if Deshaun Jackson doesn't get up to speed and play a ton early. And the only way they're going to create big plays through the passing game is on those jump balls down the sideline or pass interference. But you got to give these guys a chance. So you see it every week in all these other games. At some point, you got to throw the ball down the field and let those guys make a play rather than take the 2-yard pass.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so much. It's just so much dumping down you can do. And I know it might. I know you might be worried about turning the ball over, but I mean, you gotta give Ruggs a chance. You gotta give Waller a chance down the field in order to really take this offense to another level without the speed of Ruggs. I mean, listen, his speed is gone. It's never coming back. So, you have to, and you don't have the professional wide receivers here on this team to really, kind of help win on the outside. That's just the way it is right now. I mean, there's no other way of doing it.
I think another point is, and I've seen it all over Raiders Twitter last few days as well. Ruggs is not there to take off the top of the defense, so they can't throw the ball down the field. Well, how many teams in the league, other than Kansas City,
has
a receiver that can run like that? So I don't want to hear that excuse. Other teams can still throw the ball down the field without a speed guy or open things up. It does help.
Yeah,
it does help. But there's like 2 or 3 teams in the league that have that element on their offense.
Exactly.
And the guys they have now, the Edwards and Jones on the outside, those guys don't win with separation. You're not going to see those guys get 3, 4, 5 yards of separation. They're big physical guys. They're going to win with body positioning, and you're going to have to give them chances to make some contested catches and trust them. If you're waiting for them to get 3, 4, 5 yards of separation, it's not happening. And in the red zone, based on a couple of clips I've seen, they doubled Renfro quite a bit, and they ran extra guys at Waller as well. So they're going to have to do something. And it starts up front with those 5 linemen. And if they start running the ball in the red zone and scoring a couple more touchdowns, that's going to make the difference. But this team has to get a lead to beat good teams because they can't stop the run.
Yeah. Let's go. Deshaun Jackson. Last couple. I mean, I guess he's always been at least the very least 16.9 yards per reception kind of guy. So that's what we have to work on. And they got. I mean, we have no off season. And listen, the team is re-upped on this, so that they didn't say, okay, Derek, go ahead and work with what you have. They're trying their best to get other replacements in here for him, so he has to go get the speed immediately. If you got to get him in the backyard all night out there in Vegas, we don't got the off season to really kind of get through all this. Your little throwing passing camp that we had before. This has to happen now.
I guess I have 2 questions. One, how quickly is Deshaun Jackson going to be able to play? Like, are we talking 10, 15 plays and special packages for the first couple of weeks? Because I think that's the way this is leaning. 3 games in 11 days. He's not going to come in and get 30, 40 snaps. At least I don't think. It's going to be very hard for him to do that. And when he does, he's not going to have the chemistry with Carr anyway. So it's not like if he gets 30 snaps, he's going to get 6, 7, 8 targets. And 2, do we want to talk about OBJ or just assume it's not going to happen?
At this point, I'll say this. At this point, if he's healthy and is ready to go, I got to see a playoff. I got to see a playoff berth, and I got to see the asterisk against that Las Vegas. I would go ahead and do it. I would pull the trigger. If they can make it happen, just go do it. Like, I don't know how you feel about it. I was against it before, but this was me thinking that they would actually be 6-2 right now and have some leeway. I don't know. I mean, Seattle. I mean, I don't understand why you want to go to a 3-5 Seattle or a 3-5 San Francisco. Who else was on OBJ's list?
Saints with Trevor Siemian.
Saints with Trevor Siemian. And I think, listen, what people talk about who coach of the year, all that stuff like that. if you don't look at what Sean Payton's doing with his quarterback situation and call him one of the coaches of the year, you must be out of your mind. He's doing a great job. I can't think of anybody else who would. I mean, like you're gonna go in division with Brady. Like, not that. I mean, I'm just. I don't know. It just makes no sense to me. I think I'm not. I mean, we're not. We live in a silver and black world, but it seemed like if you had him with Waller, we just at the beginning of the season we had a I forgot the gentleman's name who wrote the book about the Raiders offense and
Bobby Peters, I think.
Yeah, and the offense basically he kind of described ran everything through a slot receiver and Waller, and then the slot receiver obviously is Renfro. You got to have more than that, and I mean, we need somebody on the outside to actually. If you had both of those guys on the outside, I mean, you can manufacture some catches for both those individuals. You can do that, and I think that that would really help this offense a great deal. I don't know if he's going to do it. I don't know if he's going to do it. You think? I mean, there's no way they're doubling down though. It'd have to be like maybe a David Moore type. Somebody else. I don't think they double down. John Brown is on the Jacksonville Jaguars practice squad now, so he must be really. Tyrell Williams got cut. We're not going there. So it has to be somebody like that, right?
Yeah, I definitely don't think they're done at wide receiver because Dylan Stoner, one play, had a penalty. He looked bad on special teams. Like, I kept watching him as the gunner. I don't think he made it halfway down the field on any of the punt coverages. No. He was getting washed. But yeah, the way the Raiders went into this season, bringing KJ Wright, they basically went all in on this season. And Rich Bisaccia said it in his someone asked him about draft prospects next year, and he said, "Well, if I'm here next year, like they all know, like the writing's on the wall. They have to make the playoffs. Mayock, I think, has to make the playoffs." Now, do they have the money? I don't know what OBJ wants, but if he wants to come to Vegas and Carr is okay with it at this point, I'd definitely run that decision through Carr. I originally I would say no, but I'm kind of leaning because I don't think Deshaun Jackson is going to come in. He's not going to win routes over the middle. He's not going to run away from guys on crossing routes. He's basically going to be used in the decoy alert route that Ruggs was last year. You're going to see a lot of what you saw to Ruggs last year, clearing out, running vertical routes. The Raiders still need someone to win one-on-one underneath and in the intermediate area. And without looking at the all-22, I don't think it was Ezra Jones last week. Someone still has to do that.
Yeah, and you have to, like, you can't ignore it. He's going to take somebody with him when he runs his 9 route, because you can't just ignore Deshaun Jackson. He's not a scrub. He's a guy who can definitely catch the football back there as well. So I mean, that's really, I mean, we hate to be like the coaches and say we got to see the film, but we do got to see the film.
I mean, it's worth a 1-year flyer for 9 weeks, because if he does come in and have a positive impact, the ability to try to keep him next year, if he does show anything close to now, I don't think he's the all-pro that he was early in his career, but could he be a top 20 wide receiver in the league still? Yes. I think he could.
Did you see
the Raiders? He'd be the best receiver on the Raiders right now.
Yes.
If they brought him in. So I can see the argument for it. I can also see the argument against it, but ultimately this decision is going to come down to Mayock and Carr. And at the end of the day, it's OBJ's decision, because I don't think he's getting claimed that he's going to get to choose. So the Raiders may not even be a part of the equation. They signed Deshaun Jackson. They wanted him over me. I'm taking my ball and I'm going somewhere else. But we'll see. Like, I could definitely see the Raiders doubling down if the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, listen, you gotta do what you gotta do. I mean, somebody jokingly tweeted out, what Seth Roberts doing right now. I thought I got a huge kick out of that one. It was like tongue in cheek. It was pretty funny, as far as that goes. But yeah, this is a mess. It doesn't have to be a mess. They have to find a way to get, because I've seen a lot of teams not have. You can't have nothing out of the wide receiving core. Like, you got to have something out of it. And people are going to double and triple and do whatever they can to get Renfro and Waller out of it. You got to have somebody else win, and I think that's where he comes in. And I think Brian Edwards. I was watching Chase Claypool tonight. Catch some balls that that were some over the shoulder balls, those high point balls. If you go back and watch the tape of him at South Carolina, that's what he does. So. if you want to. I mean, that he's not going to be a blazer, but he can definitely get to some of those balls and get to work on some of those, because you need some of those plays. You gotta have some of those plays. You gotta have it. Otherwise it's what are we doing with Brian Edwards at that point? I thought we were over this after the Baltimore game. I thought he'd be like more of an integral part of the offense. And I know they want to spread the ball around, but there has to be some intentionality into getting somebody like that the football, because you're playing a team this week that defensively, don't look at what they did last week to Jordan Love, because that was just Jordan Love being Jordan Love. But they are not a good defensive team. They're just not. They're just not. I don't know how you feel about that. I feel about that, but before we go, but that's like, I just feel like, I mean, that they have to being more intentional about, I know they want to spread it around, but they have to be more intentional about getting him the football, because they need to get something from the wide receiver position.
Let me ask you this. So Brian Edwards wins most on in-breaking routes. Who's winning on this team on 3rd and 7 to 10 on an out route or a comeback route or something, a speed route on the outside? It's not Renfro. He's running choice routes underneath. It's not Waller. It's not Edwards. It's probably not going to be Deshaun Jackson. He's going to win vertical. He's not going to win in that intermediate speed and out route. They don't have a guy on the roster that can win running a speed out or a 10-yard out or a comeback or something towards the sidelines in one-on-one coverage. So teams are going to man up the guys on the outside, and they're going to double up and cloud the middle of the field, and it's a problem. So we'll see what adjustments.
It is. But I mean, whether it's we'll kind of dive deep into it later in the week. But yeah, I mean, it's a problem, but even with that problem, they still were able to move the football down the field, and they needed to they need to find a way to get into the end zone. And I think that listen, like you could not have asked for better New York weather for a West Coast team. You couldn't have asked for more time to throw the football. You couldn't ask for better run blocking. Yeah, so you got a lot of things you wanted, and you didn't get the W. So you had to pay the price for that. And now this game is, I don't know. This game is, the Raiders are 2-point underdogs at home to a team like the Chiefs, who have played probably as poorly as any winning team in football. So we got to see what happens there.
It'll be interesting when we get to later in the week. We pick this game to see.
You going, right?
I am not. I'm not going to this game. I have to do some work this week, and I'm not able to get out of town.
Okay. I thought you were on this game. All right. Should be fun. Well, we'll see you next time, Rare Nation. And listen, we bring you the right news, not always good news. So let's see you next time.
Yeah. See ya. Thanks, Raider fans. Thanks again for listening to the Put on Raiders podcast. But please be sure to subscribe and leave comments. We'd love to answer the comments in the future. But keep those clicks, keep watching. And we're here for you to break down all Raiders content.